Hello, community. Today we're going to talk about something new, Bloom. Bloom is a large language model from the Big Science initiative from Hugging Face. It is bigger than GPT-3. It has 176 billion parameters. It is available in 59 languages, which is just great. And it is an open access, but it is not open source. And therefore, we have to talk about what is your license if you want to use this. Hugging Face did a beautiful job describing this to you. And if you go to Hugging Face, you see here under BigScience Bloom, you have here all the data. You have here the model details. Bloom is an autoregressive large language model trained to continue text from a prompt on vast amounts of text data using industrial scale computational resources. Beautiful. But they also show you that there is a license to it. And Hugging Face, I think, really did something interesting here, because you might say, hey, is this an open source? And the answer is no, this is not open source. So let's have a look at the intellectual property rights. If you are allowed to use this model for research or for application, if you want to sell something to the market, and what are the regulation and the provisions when you take this model, what are your rights and how this model is protected. Now, there is a beautiful short summary. I leave you the link to this, and it is the BigScience real license. And we just have a look at the real license in a minute. I just want to show you BigScience, in case you do not know, is an ongoing collaborative open science initiative where a large number of researchers from all over the world work together to train a large language model. Everything is happening open, not like in GPT-3 where the code was secret and you could not investigate what was part of the code, how does it work. Anyone can participate here, and all the research artifacts are shared with the entire research community. So this is great. BigScience would like to ensure free worldwide access to its large language model by taking a responsible approach to the development and the release of the artifacts. And here we are at the core. Because if you look, and they were so nice to put some FAQs, and they say here, is it an open source license? And the answer they give, it is not. And please remind this, not an open source license, because the restrictions apply on the use of the model. And this is now interesting because the restriction of the model, you have to know them if you want to use the model, whatever intention you have. So I would say, let's dive right into it. This is what you have been waiting for. This is the official license, and this license will be legally value for you if you use this model. So here we go. BigScience Rail License version 1.0 as of May 19, 2022. So it states, BigScience aim to promote not just open access, but also the responsible use. And this is really, really interesting, because you know what happened to the application of GPT-3, and there were some massive problems involved in the first run of GPT-3. It has an open and permissive character. So, BigScience is a collaborative open innovation project aimed at the responsible development and use of large multilingual, beautiful datasets and LLMs for the benefit of society. And they say the world has witnessed, well, yeah, how just a few companies are able to develop LLMs, and moreover, in some instances, it became a risk for the public in general. You had a racial discrimination to the treatment of sensitive information. And now BigScience, as an open initiative, believes in the intersection between open and responsible AI development. So they take on this burden to make it right. to say, hey, we're a community of researchers. Let's do this right. Let's look how we can strike a balance between both in order to enable a responsible open science for LLM and future NLP techniques. So everybody can learn from us. So here we go. Now it comes a little bit legal, because we have to dive into what is data and what is the model on a legal term, because as I will show you in a minute, it has significant implications on how you can use this model. So data mean a collective of text extracted from the BigScience corpus used with the model, including, and now it comes, to train, to pre-train, and otherwise evaluate the model. And the model itself means any accompanying machine learning-based assemblies, including the checkpoints, so including the saved weights, consist of the learned weights, all the parameters, and the model architecture. And what they call derivatives of the model include all modification to the model itself, work based on the model, well, this is really restrictive, or any transfer of patterns of the weights, parameters, or activation or output of the model. So everything you have ever done with this original model, whatever you do, if you fine-tune it, if you just transfer the weights, if you transfer parameters, everything falls under derivatives of the model. So you cannot create, if you want something completely new, free of license issues out of this model. Now, intellectual property rights. I know that every programmer loves intellectual property rights. Therefore, you do not have a lawyer in your small and medium-sized enterprise creating artificial intelligence or LLMs. So, it is interesting to know, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm a scientist, but you have to understand just basic facts. They have gone for a copyright license and a patent license in software. So this really shows you that they care about how their model is used. Just a short recap. With software programs, the actual code of the software is protected by copyright. The code of the software is protected by copyright. It's the same protection as a book or a piece of art, so it is protected, the code. Now, the functions of the code is protected by a patent. And the company, or you or whatever company, uses their system to provide a service or a product. So we see the code is protected and the function of the code is protected, either copyright or patent. And they choose both. So, copyright issue. They give you a free license to reproduce, prepare, publicly display, publicly perform, sublicense and distribute the model and derivatives of the model. So the copyright, remember, goes to the actual code. Now the license goes to the, if you want, the function of the code. So you get a license, a patent license to make, use, offer to sell, import, and transfer the model. You say, hey, that's great. So I have a worldwide, non-exclusive, no charge, royalty-free, yes, patent license, yes. But you have, and this is now the interesting part, use-based restriction. And this is the reason why it's not an open source model. So, use-based conditions of usage. This is what you are interested in. How can I use this thing? Use-based restriction, as referenced in paragraph 5, must be included in an enforceable provision by you in any type of legal agreement governing the use and distribution of the model. So what it means, yes, if you change the files, you have to say and state, I changed the file, that you are responsible. But let's go to the core, the use-based restriction. Given Article 5, the restrictions set forth in Attachment A to this license agreement are considered use-based restriction. Therefore, you cannot, and please notice this, you cannot use the model and the derivatives of the model for specified restricted uses. You are not allowed to use the model in anything about Attachment A. Anything else? Use may include, what is use? It may include creating any content with, any fine-tuning. So even if you say, hey, I just regard this model as a pre-trained model, and I now provide my training data set that I do the fine-tuning of this model, no, it is also included in use. Any updating, any running, training, evaluating, reparameterizing of the model is in use. So this is it. Of course, you are accountable for the output you generate from this model and its subsequent uses. I mean, if you're a small and medium enterprise and you are responsible for the subsequent use of whatever you did, you better know about that you have legal conditions that you have to fulfill. Disclaimer of warranty. So they provide you the model without warranties or conditions of any kind. So it's totally up to you. You are solely responsible for determining the appropriateness of using or redistributing the model or derivatives of the model. So it's all up to you. You are legally responsible. You cannot go back and sue them for anything. You cannot say the machine did it. No, you are responsible for each and everything that happens here. Beautiful. Now we come to the interesting part, attachment A, the use restriction. You have to know about this because this is a model for the research community that they can use, learn. But if you want to apply it on a commercial basis and if you want to make money out of this, there are use restrictions you should be aware of. And just to give you a legal disclaimer, this is not any legal document or legal advice at all. You are responsible. You have to read everything. You have to be cautious about whenever you use it. This is just to give you an indication that there are a lot of documents you have to know and define your individual rights. So here we go. You agree not, and let me specify this, not to use the model or derivatives of the model in the following cases. And you might say, great, so let's start at the bottom. No way you can use it for medical advice on L or medical result interpretation in any way or form. So everything about medical, not allowed to use it. And another topic is justice, law enforcement, immigration, asylum processing, including text profiling, or even drawing causal relationships. No way you can use it in medical, justice, law enforcement, immigration, asylum processes, whatever is connected to these sectors. No way. Okay, then let's go to the rest of A to K. You are not allowed to use this model or derivatives of the model as specified here in attachment A in any way that violates any applicable national law, federal law, state law, local law, international law, or any regulation at all in the area that you live or you want to make this available as a product to the market. For the purpose of exploiting, harming, or attempting to exploit or harm minors in any way. Of course, minors, no way you're allowed to do this. You agree not to use the model to generate or disseminate verifiably false information. Wow, welcome US. With the purpose of harming others. The purpose of harming others is an interesting legal term, by the way. You agree not to use the model to generate or disseminate personal, identifiable information that can be used to harm an individual. You agree not to use this to defame or otherwise harass others, to attempt to impersonate others. Jesus. Oh, missed something. You have to make sure that the text is machine generated. So therefore you cannot pretend, like here, where it was, to impersonate other human beings. You have to say, I am a machine. I am not a human being. I'm not responsible for what I tell you, for what I recommend to you. You are responsible for this. A human is responsible for this. Then, you do not use it for fully automated decision making that adversely impacts an individual legal rights. This is so anything that would touch an individual legal rights is out of scope if you want to use this model on. That adversely impacts an individual's legal rights. Gee, this is a really interesting paragraph. Think about this, what it could mean. Not allowed. Any use intended to or which has an effect of discriminating or discriminating against or harming individuals or groups based on online or offline social behavior. Wow. So discriminating against or harming individuals or groups based on their social behavior online and offline. Think about this. Think about what includes this. It's a lot of groups. To exploit any of the vulnerabilities of a specific group of persons based on their age, based on social characteristics, physical characteristics, or mental characteristics. So you're not allowed to use this model for exploit any of the vulnerabilities of a specific group of persons based on age, social, physical, or mental characteristics. Think about what is not in this set. You are not allowed to use it for use intended to or which has an effect of discriminating against individuals based on legally protected characteristics. Wow. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but does this not include anything? I don't know. And of course, as we already mentioned, nothing to do with medical, nothing to do with interpretation of medical results. And this is important because you do have, wherever you live in this world, human rights. And I think you have the right to have access to a professional, to a doctor, if it concerns your health. To generate, disseminate information for the purpose to be used for administration of justice, law enforcement, immigration, asylum process, tax profiling. So all of this, you are not allowed, you agree not to use the model or derivatives of this Bloom model by BigScience. So you have to know this. You have to know this when you use this document, when you use this LLM. What are your legal licensing conditions that you agree to and are legally binding for you? And I can't stress this enough because you know something, if I go there and if I see last month you had 15,000 downloads, I do hope that each and every person who downloaded this and is thinking, oh great, this is finally an open model for me that I can use. I hope that each and every person is in the research community, has no intention for applied to any of the protected groups of persons, groups of groups, or any topic that we just mentioned. So you have to understand your legal obligation if you use this model. And let me be clear. I think that whatever GPT-3 failed to achieve, this is a highly interesting BigScience initiative, and I think they try to make it right. I think they are one of the first, except of course Google, Microsoft, and Amazon that go ahead with their models. They try to be a responsible research community, and they think that they want to go away with their model, and I think they really are an important part of their community, and they are one of the front runners here to establish the use and the conditions of use for LLMs and the impact those models will have on our society, on you, on me, on every individual on this planet in the years to come. So Congratulations to Hacking Face. I think they did a great job. But you have also, as a user, as a programmer, as an AI coder, as whatever, even if you're a businessman and you think, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to build a chatbot or whatsoever. Chatbot is something I wanted to show you. Concerning chatbot, I want to show you here in the BigScience Rail license agreement and frequently asked question, they have an example. And they say, imagine a company wants to use the Bloom model in order to develop a version for a commercial chatbot. The company accesses the model, modifies it, fine-tunes it to be the technical backbone of the chatbot app. Firstly, all the conditions of use will be governed by this Rail license agreement. Second, according to the terms defined in the license, all of what the company is doing on a commercial market is considered a derivative of the model. So you're still legally bound by this agreement. Thus, the use of the chatbot will be governed by the use-based restriction defined in the Rail license. And accordingly, when commercializing the new version of the model by means of a commercial license, the latter will have to integrate this use-based restriction as part of the subsequent license. So whenever you want to go out of the research community, out of the learning community, and you think this is a quick and dirty way to make money, you build a commercial chatbot and you do not understand the risks and you do not understand maybe the harm you can do to society. Here, with those use-based restriction and those liabilities that you have, even if you use it as a technical backbone and you train the model further, you fine-tune the model further for a commercial application, you are still bound by the use-based restriction since it's a part of the subsequent license agreement. First time I read this, I think, is why is it not open source, complete open source? But no, the more I thought about it, I thought, no, they are right. Because you cannot believe in the self-regulation of the people that everybody behaves in an ethical way. This is not the case. Therefore, I have to say, congratulations, a beautiful initiative. You, as a person that use this model, have to be aware of its limitation. And this is why I did this video. I wanted to show you that you have a legal responsibility whenever you download something, whenever you use it. And even if you just use it as a technical backbone, you have legal limitations on you. And when you try to do a commercial copy and when you try to sell it further on, you have absolutely be aware of the risks associated with this model, with all the harm it can do to society, that there's a lot of protected groups, a lot of protected individuals that you are not allowed to use this model on. And you have to know these facts because in the end, you are the only person being responsible if something happens. Therefore, I hope you enjoyed the video. You learned a little bit. Again, legal disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer. This is just my personal opinion I have. I read this text. I think it is important. Everybody should read about it, about what is protected by copyright, what is protected by patent, the function of the code, the actual code of the software itself. You have to know about this because in the end, remember, you will be responsible for everything. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.